And it's coming. If I can open this up. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Man, check this out. We are going to talk about men, more specifically, when he falls in love, when a man falls in love. And I'm not going to be doing this episode alone. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. Make sure that you subscribe. I have a new friend to the podcast. She's been podcasting for a minute now. She doesn't have her own podcast, but she probably will soon. We're going to speak that into existence.
Pressure.
Right. If you've heard her on my man Baylor's podcast, Baylor the Great, for Baylor for President. She's a mother. She's an entrepreneur. And she might be the biggest Prince fan this side of the east of the Mississippi. Ladies and gentlemen, welcoming into the 12 Kyle podcast for the first time, my girl, Britt. Britt, what up?
Thank you. Pleasure.
Welcome. What's good?
A whole lot. Life, love, happiness, and what you want to do.
Right. So we're going to talk about when he falls in love. We came to this. I was reading probably a couple months ago. I came across this article. I was like, yo, this would be dope to talk about. And then you and I were having a conversation the other day, and I was like, yo, this would be dope for us to talk about because, you know, you kind of get the male's perspective as well as the woman's perspective. And maybe there's some lies in here. Maybe there's some maybe there's some things right. Maybe there's a stone or two that we'll overturn. But the article talked about just really how I guess they surveyed some men and kind of tapped into what they were feeling, what it feels like to actually experience falling in love. Now, for some men, not all, that's a, novel concept, falling in love.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I probably should start by asking you the obvious. Has a man ever fallen in love with you?
I would like to think so. I'd like to think it was the truth. Yes.
Okay.
I had to think. Not that I've had a bunch of relationships in life, but I can certainly say for sure, I definitely know one has.
Okay. And guilty as charged. Yours truly has fallen in love. I think the first time I fell in love, I think I was like 6, but that don't count. But yeah, I think I've fallen in love before. So now, one of the things that the article pointed out, I guess the first thing we could talk about is it mentioned that the men that they talked to, they described it as falling in love as being cinematic. Like you are in this movie and everything is happening and it's almost always happening at once. A lot of things are happening at once and it's almost like a movie. What do you think about men who say that falling in love is cinematic?
I think they're full of shit. You want the truth? I think they're full of shit.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just because from a woman's side, you don't really hear men express it that way.
Okay.
You don't. Like, unless you got a good one who wants to cupcake and pillow talk and tell you all that stuff.
Right.
But no, because they got to still be a man and whatever. So I guess I won't say they're full of shit. There may be some out there. I've never come across them.
Okay.
That tell me that. But because truth be told, I don't feel it's cinematic.
Okay.
Because part of me feels after everything I've gone through in life, when it feels cinematic, it's not real. It's some bullshit.
Okay.
It's too much overload right away because nothing's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, I just don't understand what the cinematic parts would be.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's like a high in the beginning. You're high off that new feeling. Everything is new, exciting. And then
You say, and then
I don't know what to tell you after that.
I think there's some validity to that. I think speaking for myself, I think what happens is that in our minds we go through things thinking like, okay, when I get to this point, I'll know that I'm in love and I'm going to feel this way. And I think the reason why some men probably that they polled said that because that's what they've seen in movies. Like, so maybe they didn't see it in their house. Maybe they didn't see it from their homeboy, because he ain't gonna tell you.
No.
So, so it's the illusion of what you saw. So maybe it's not necessarily cinematic, but in our minds we made it to be because that's the only thing that we were taught. Like, but I agree with you. There's a certain euphoria, there's a certain high that you experience, very different from any high that you could get from a drug or alcohol or anything like that. And then you just kind of float, and then it just goes from there. But it's something I want to go back to that you mentioned. So I guess the next question I have for you: Do you think men are very, or at least the men that you know, not just the ones that you've dealt with, as well as the ones that you maybe grew up around, friends with, whatever like that? Do you think they've been as forthcoming when they were approaching the stage of falling in love?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can say that. See, from my personal experience, I think life just hit them in the middle of it and then detour. And I think everybody has that, but it's how you maneuver through that detour.
Facts.
But I have friends, men who are married, and I mean, I don't know every single thing about their relationship, and even example, me and BTG are like this. I don't know his marriage like that. I don't know, but I can tell you from what I do know and what I've seen, like I feel that he has been forthcoming in his journey with his wife. And that's admirable because I'm sitting here going, I ain't got too much more faith left in what's out there. But seeing stuff like that, and then the fact that there are men who will be open about that, because I don't know what's going on with men, but they like to hide all that. And it's really not.
I don't know if they necessarily want to hide it. I guess, and I can speak from my own personal experience. I think we're reluctant to come forward because, like, I guess the best way I can describe it, Britt, is like when I was younger, back in my single days, back in my day. I used to describe it as stages, right? I said there would be like like I could like you, right? And then I would go from like to deep like. And then if I went from deep like to love. And then after that, you go from love to in love. So I think you have to go through those stages. So I think so let's just assume that every man goes through those stages. So when he gets to the part from deep like to love, he knows what love feels like. Or maybe he doesn't. Some guys honestly don't know what love feels like, or even know what it looks like. Women too. But for the sake of this argument, we talk about guys. So but when he gets to the love and then trying to figure out is he in love, that's scary. And I'm gonna tell you why, Britt, because like in our minds, most of us, and I can't speak for all, but most of us, there's a control thing. And we feel like we're about to lose control. And if you want to scare a man, take control away.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why it's kind of hard sometimes. And again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm bumping for the fellas, but I am bumping for the fellas. I think that's probably why there's some apprehension on coming and being forthright, because like you're getting this feeling inside and you're like, oh man, I don't even know if I really want to tell her this. Like, you know, but you know, like the old folks used to tell us coming up, if you know, you know.
Right.
So does that make sense?
It makes sense. And I agree it's on both sides. I know you vouching for the fellas, but it makes sense for women too. Because I know there's some women who, you know, want to be all in and just nothing scares them about that. And there's some women who are more like the men. And, you know, just like when you were talking about, this is how we started that conversation from that one show. You mentioned commitment, and it's not necessarily, oh, I want to be with other men, I want to be with other women. Right. It's you got to think about other people, and then, you know, okay, now this is where I'm going. I don't have that option to just up and bounce if I want to, or it's all of that. So even with love, it's kind of hand in hand with the commitment. Just don't get scared. But
okay, well, there is some fear in commitment. I mean, I don't think I'm stepping out of bounds by saying that. Especially when a guy's falling in love, because like if he's falling in love, like he's literally like, okay, this is it. Like I'm with her. I'm not trying to be with nobody else. And then it's like, okay, wait a minute. I'm really with her. Like I'm not going to be with nobody else. Like
right.
Nobody. Like wait a minute. That kind of goes against our mindset and mantra of what we were taught since we were 10 or 11. Like, you know, get as many girls as you want. You know, you're supposed to be the bachelor, whatever the case may be. So no, there's some apprehension there. One of the emotions that they described, because they asked, you know, some guys in this article to describe the emotions, and the word that kept coming up was anxious. Do you think men can be anxious about falling in love, or is it anxious? Or I guess the question I'm asking is it anxious or apprehension, or both?
I think it's mostly anxiety. Well, because
I wasn't even thinking of that word, but that's good.
I think it's anxiety. I mean, it's a whole change, and then go back to that word control, because then you don't have full control, because when it comes to marriage or falling in love, like it's a partnership. It's a team. It's not just you. So unless you found somebody who is very 100% submissive and dumb and follows every little thing you say and do, like Coming to America, bark like a dog.
Right, yeah, bark like a dog, hop on one foot.
So unless you find one of those, you don't have full control. And I get where, you know, a lot of men are taught to, you're the head of the household, you do this, you're in charge of this. And so then that's control. But it's not like that. It's a team, and you got to listen to the other person. It's not just you and your feelings. And I think that's where I'm kind of straying off the topic here, but that's where
no, you're good. Go ahead. Cool.
That's where stuff gets kind of lost. Like, it's not taught that, hey, when you're in a relationship or you're married or whatever, you have to listen to the other person. You have to be able to, an active listening, not just listen. Yeah, I hear you. No, like active listening and communication, because it's not all what you say, or my favorite, do as I say, not do as I do kind of thing. Yeah, it's you don't have control. And so it's just there's so many variables, moving parts to it.
But you understand how not having control would cause a lot of anxiety for a guy, right?
Yes, I do. For a guy, yes, I do. And I don't know if it's just me personally or if other women are like, but the control thing, like losing control, and I'm a Virgo.
Okay.
I'm very, I like my stuff the way I like it.
Right, right.
My space and everything. But when I have fallen in love, that stuff doesn't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain things I still am like, okay, I want this. But like overall, nope, be in my space. Do this. Like, I want you a part of this. So, but I don't know if that's me. I don't know if that's women. Definitely different than men. But I can see for men where it causes, and I'm going to say the word anxiety because I think that's what it is.
I think there's some validity to that. I think there is a level of anxiety because there's a I don't want to use the word fear, but there's a caution about the unknown. And I think when you're so used to things being a certain way, and again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm bumping, but I am. When you're used to things being a certain way, and then you step basically into this realm of the abyss, you're in uncharted waters. Yep. You've never been here before, and more importantly, you've never been here with this particular person. So the love with Tanya, being in love with Tanya is different than being in love with Jane. So, and fellas, please don't compare two women. That's another podcast. That's another podcast for another day. But I think there's a level of anxiety there. I can only speak for myself, but yeah, I think there's a level of anxiety there because, you just don't know. And, the T word comes into effect, trust. Can you trust, not just trust them? Because, if you're falling in love as a guy with a woman or a man, you're falling in love, you trust them, but you're also trusting your heart, and you're trying not to, I guess, overexpose yourself, if you will. So it's a lot of stuff at play. Like you said, Britt, there's a lot of moving parts. A lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
So I will fully admit that control is a big thing.
I also feel it's where you are in life.
This is true.
If you don't fall in love younger, or if you don't experience love younger, and you just out and roaming the streets, if you don't, I feel like if you don't experience that when you're younger, when you get older and you finally say, okay, it's time to, you're so set in your ways, you don't know how to share your space or even think to include somebody in what like should be meeting in the middle. It's more, well, this is how I do it. It's more like that than it is if you were to probably be doing that at a younger age. And then, my opinion, I don't know. I don't have the statistics on that, but.
So is there I don't want to say perfect, but is there an ideal age for a man to fall in love, in your opinion? Or what would be the ideal age? Just you based off your experiences.
Late 20s. I mean, like late, not like 26, 27. I mean, like 28, 29, 30 even.
Okay.
Only because, and it's so funny because when you were that young, you're like, oh, I'm so young.
Right.
Then it's just, oh my God. If you go back and you think about where you were at 20, or what relationship you were in at 22, what your dating life was at 25, and where you were, career, education, whatever, your living situation, whatever it is. When you go back and think about that, and that's when you can really go like, probably around this time would have been a perfect time for me to do that. Right. For me, personally, like my early 20s, like right after high school, early college, I wasn't in a relationship. I might have like talked to guys. I might have gone on a couple dates, but I was going with the flow by myself. I wasn't whatever. But I then got into a relationship. That was a long relationship. And I think I was 24.
Okay.
And that relationship lasted for about 5 years.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I'm a longevity.
I like that. I like that answer.
I've had 2 long relationships in my adult life. And I think dating, like just random dates and whatever, I've only had like 2 years worth of that.
Okay.
You
ain't for the streets.
No, at all. Like, that's not for me. But when I think back where I was in those, like, I wish the guy I dated, or I was in a long relationship first at 24, if I had met him 3 years later, I think it would have been better for both of us as far as like in love. And I actually, when you asked me earlier, I think he's the one that like really did fall in love with me.
Okay.
I'm not even gonna go on the other one. But that one, I think he really did
okay.
fall in love with me. And I feel like if he had been at a better spot in his life, because then we can go on to this topic, a man not being put together enough. You're never going to be ready 100% in life. You're not. Whether it's emotional, mental, financial, whatever, you're not going to be 100%. All right, I'm ready to go.
Right.
But you have to know who you are. You have to know, and not necessarily what you want to be in life, but you have to know what makes you happy. You have to make yourself happy before. And in that relationship, he wasn't happy with himself. Me, I got your back, not letting him go to get himself together. So I honestly think we probably would have got married.
Wow.
If we had been if I had, because there was one time where he said, I can't do this. I need to get myself together. Me, no, I love you. I got you. And it just prolonged that. And then finally I let him go. He's married now.
Wow.
Yeah. I let him go. This isn't working right now, blah, blah, blah. A few years passed. He's married. But I'm happy for him. Like, yeah.
You weren't hating. You were like, man, I can't believe this.
I wasn't because I let him go.
Okay.
At the end of it, like he wanted to go, whatever, and I tried. But I realized like nothing's changing. And I wasn't happy at that point because I was honestly irritated with a lot. And I let him go. And he lives in California.
Okay.
So he moved out here with me. He went back. Yep.
Wow.
And that one I think was probably one of my hardest things to deal with because I was so close to his family.
Okay.
So, but I think if we had met later on, or if I had let him go earlier, we would have gotten married.
Yeah, timing is everything.
It is timing. That's the other thing. Really timing, I didn't learn about too much until the last like couple of years, how important timing really is. Just, replaying stuff in my head about my past and learning with my present. Timing is everything.
I think that's something that people don't talk about enough, because like we're kind of like in this microwave society where we want what we want when we want it. And sometimes it's not good to get what you want when you want it because are you ready for it? You can pray for a wife or pray for a girlfriend and not be ready for it. Or to your point that you mentioned earlier, and I think is a great point, like you can't hold yourself to these standards that society set. I got to be this, I got to have this amount of money. I got to have this job. I got to be at this level in my life, before I start to sit down and commit to somebody, because, the reality is if none of that stuff makes you happy, then when you get it, it's not going to matter anyway.
Nope.
So you can say, oh yeah, I want to make $300,000 and you work to the bone to get to that point. And then like, it's not even about the money. Yeah.
For somebody, if you got to work to the bone.
Right.
Do you have time to give anybody?
Right.
Like there's got to be a balance, but I think timing, especially with age, where you fall in love, I think that matters, because I think if you don't dabble in love a little bit in your younger years,
there you go.
Yeah, it's like being an only child. If you never have to share your stuff or your space or toys or whatever, and then you get to be with somebody and you got to share your space, you're not going. I know people who are only children who are 40 years old and don't like anybody doing anything. So, nah, you got to experience that stuff late 20s at least. Like, at least if you didn't have a high school sweetheart.
I think you touched on a great point, because like I think that at least in having those relationships, even if you don't get to the point where you fall in love, having those relationships, because those are what we call building blocks. Those are relationships, building blocks that get you to where you want to be, or at least help you get to where you want to be when the quote unquote right one comes, or the one that comes that you fall in love with. Even going back to what you said a little earlier, as far as the age, I would agree. Late 20s. Now, I would hope that if you're falling in love in your late 20s, early 30s, I would hope that you would have at least experienced love in your teens and early 20s, because I'll be honest, if you're 30 years old and you fall in love for the first time and you never loved somebody prior to that point, you better hope it works. If not, you'll probably go crazy if it doesn't. And you feel like you can't live without this person, and you want to jump off a bridge or something.
That's another reason why you got to experience it young.
Yes.
Because that first heartbreak, man, you think the world is ending. No, promise you. And that's one thing my mom said. I promise you, one day you'll be like, what the fuck? Like, nah.
I tell my sons all the time. I say, you guys, you're going to break a lot of hearts. I say, and you're going to get your heart broken. I was like, it's going to happen. I was like, so, just be prepared. And I was like, I'm going to be here regardless. I was like, but you going all of you. I said, you guys, oh, Dad, no, I like her, and we're going to be together. Trust me.
Okay.
Trust me when I tell you. I've been around the block a few times. You're gonna break a few hearts. And hopefully it's not intentional, but shit happens. Yeah. But at the same time, be mindful, be respectful, whatever, the whole nine. But that's a great point. I think if you're able to experience love, then it makes it a little bit easier. But to your point, timing is everything, and I think that's something that people don't talk about enough. One of the other things that they talked about in the article was, I guess you have to get to the point of asking yourself, well, Britt, how do I know I'm in love with her? And of the men that they talked to, they said the first thing that guys would say was, she's always on their mind. What do you think about that? I see you making faces.
Is it in a good way?
Yeah. Always on the mind.
Crazy, and she's always on her mind because, man, that chick is crazy. Yeah, I think there's some validity to that. That's not the only thing, though.
Right. Okay.
But I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm an overthinker. It's probably on my mind even when you're driving me nuts and I can't stand your ass. So I don't know.
Okay, that's a fair point. I think there's definitely some validity to that. I think when the guys get to the point where she's just constant, like you can't, like you're constantly thinking of them, and I don't want to say, like butterflies, having those feelings and stuff. I think that's when but I mean, like, fellas, you'll know, Britt and I can tell you, but like, there's really no specific way to know, but you'll know. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing I can say is that you'll really, really know. Have in your lifetime, Britt, with the men that have fallen in love with you, were they forthcoming as far as like telling you about how they were feeling about you at the time, or was it something that you found out about later? Were they how I guess the question I'm asking is how well were they at expressing how they felt in that particular moment when they knew that they were in love with you?
Before I get to that,
okay,
is there a too soon? Because I've had very quickly. Like, can you actually now? And here's the other thing: can you fall, or can you love somebody, or like kind of be in love with somebody if you've known them, and then that opportunity finally presents itself? I've known them for 20 years, but now finally, can you? Is there like a time frame where it can be shortened than somebody you just getting to know, or you've only known for a short period of time? And
I think for men, and I'm just going to speak in general because this hasn't happened to me, but I think for men, you can fall in love with a woman that you've known, for an extended period of time. I don't necessarily know that you can fall in love with somebody that you really, really don't know. Because I think for me, that's when you're back in those stages. Like, I like you, or I'm in deep like, or I love you. But I don't know that I could just meet you. Now, granted, there are people that you can meet in your lifetime, and you may not have known them that long, and it could feel as if you've known them all of your life. That is very, very possible. I just think for me personally, I don't know that even in doing that, I don't think that I would allow myself to open myself up that much to where I would be saying like, I'm in love with this person and I've only known them for 2 months. 20 years? Sure.
Yeah.
2 months? Not so much.
Right. So that one I told you about from my mid-20s, that one took some time. I mean, deep like, and whatever. It honestly, because it's been so long, I can't tell you what time frame he actually like said it to me.
Okay.
But I know it was further along. But I felt it. I felt it before he said it.
That's key.
Yes.
You felt it. You felt that he was in love. Gotcha.
Yep. There's another one. It's a whole different crazy situation, but it was one of those like, I don't even know you. All of a sudden, it was love bombing. It was a whole gaslighting situation. But it was like within the first month, and I didn't even know that.
Wow.
And that's another show. And then there was another one known for a very long time. Lost touch, known for a very long time. But have you ever had somebody look at you like they're in love with you? Like, no? Okay.
No, not me. No. I'm married. No.
I've had that where I've never been looked at that way, and not like, oh, piece of meat or whatever.
Right.
Like, it's really hard.
So you could tell like he was in love by the way he looked at you.
Yeah.
Wow.
But with that one, also timing. But and I feel he said it early, but at the same time, I've known him for decades. So yeah, with that one, could be, maybe not.
That's interesting.
But that one from my mid-20s, I felt that one.
Wow.
He didn't even have to say it when he finally did. In my head, I'm like, well, duh, But yeah, as far as like just forthcoming about it, I don't feel that one was more in depth with talking about it. But when he finally said it, and the only one that's ever actually like explained and forthcoming was the one I've known for like 20 something years.
Okay. And see, that's probably an easier conversation to have because you got that timing, you got history, you got timing, and everything else to go with it.
Yep.
One of the other things they mentioned in the article was that men describe, and this made me chuckle. Some of the men that they talked to describe falling in love as being terrifying. I can't co-sign with that. Now, when I fell in love, I wasn't terrified. I was a little nervous, but I wasn't terrified. What do you say to that, Britt? I mean, do you really want a guy to be terrified of falling in love with you?
No, because what are you terrified about with falling in love? Like, because it's not. I can't wrap my head around actually being terrified of the falling in love. It's the other stuff that have to deal with falling in love. I can't see how falling in love is terrifying. But the losing control, or
I think, yep, you hit a nail on the head.
Yeah, it's not the falling in love.
Yeah, I think there's some validity there. I think terrifying is a different kind of word to use. It's not a word that I would use, but I think that's interesting to say the least. It's not a word I would use, but again, I guess it goes back to what I mentioned a little earlier: the fear of the unknown. The fear of the unknown.
Yep.
And you and I talked before about commitment. Obviously, if you're going to fall in love with somebody, you're looking towards and moving towards a deeper commitment than you probably had before ever in your life. And I'll be honest, myself included, at some point in time in my life, we were a little fearful of commitment. And I think, honestly, Britt, depending on the age of the man, most guys go through that. And I don't necessarily know that it's, it's, how can I put this? It's not the woman. It's, it's not you, it's me.
Heard that shit. Fine.
So I guess when you get to that point, how, and you can speak on your personal experience if you like, how do you deal with that when you know that there's something there? You know that there's, what I mentioned a little earlier, building blocks. But there's a level, or there's a fear, or there's anxiety or something that is keeping them from that commitment. How have you handled that in your lifetime?
I mean, you got to deal with it because it's not me, it's them. So, I mean, it hurts because especially when it's obvious there's something there. Clearly, there's been connection. We vibe well. We're so comfortable and like happy around each other and can talk about anything. But yet, like, and that's in my personal experience. I was like, what? But okay, sure, and then it's levels of confusion, and then you start thinking, and then all the stuff I've ever dealt with in my life, I'm like, they're not telling me the truth. And I even said it. This is exactly how I said it to them. If it's another woman, just tell me. I know how to take a hit. Like, and no, it's nobody. It's me. Da, 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 da. And because there were third parties that had like observed things, not that I was sticking people on them. People just out and about, and like, no, he really just by himself, and okay, like, I believe it, but you can't help but to personally think you did something. especially if you have a history of relationships or whatever, where people were shitty.
Yeah, facts.
You know, when you dealt
Big
with shitty
facts.
people, like, yeah, you can't help but to kind of go back to that. And that's natural for anybody in
No
any
doubt.
situation, that trauma, that whatever you want to call it, bring me back, you know, something triggers it and you're like, I've been here before.
Yeah, you just like the last one.
Yep, all y'all the same. But I think with me personally, I've had so much growth in everything I've ever been through.
Mm-hmm.
I've recognized, okay, this was me, this was them. You know, this was where I messed up. This is where I didn't, whether it was I didn't let him go, I, you know, didn't stand up for myself enough. And so that's why I'm where I am, like just taking accountability in your part of it. And then after having all that growth for myself, putting that in this new situation, like, okay, I learned this from before, I learned this from before, and then having to decide if you want to take people's word for it.
Facts.
And then if you're going to hang around and see if that's what's going on, or if you're going to just cut clean and, nope, I'm not even going to wait around to see. There's
right.
Plenty of fish in the sea. No, it's murky. That dating
that's the word you use, murky.
Is murky. Okay. Dirty fish shit in that water.
Yeah. Seaweed.
Yeah. No.
Trash cans.
Yeah. But it's really recognizing what you are willing to deal with, or what you are willing, how long your patience. If you're willing to stay patient and see, especially if there's that connection, there's that y'all vibe and it's all great, and it's just this person is trying to figure whatever it is, their fear, their whatever. If you're willing to stay and be patient and wait it out, or hell no, if you don't know you want me, then done, you know.
And that's a tough spot to be in, because like
it sucks.
Yeah, it does, because I mean, like, you know, for lack of a better term, you're in a holding pattern. You know, just like that plane, just you're circling the runway. I mean, at some point you gotta land the plane, you know, or you're gonna run out of gas.
Right. And in all fairness, in my situation, it was, they told me, I can't be the man you deserve right now. Blah, blah, blah. It's not fair to you. They told me that. But I take that information and I do what I want with it. It wasn't like they stopped talking to me though. It was, we're taking some steps back. And maybe they got scared and didn't want to say that part. It's possible.
Could be. Could very well be.
You had all these strong feelings all of a sudden. Boom, boom, boom. Oh shit. Let me slow down. Wait. It's possible.
It's very possible. I mean, like, and again, you know, what I talked about a little earlier, it could be that they're falling in love and they're, you know, getting cold feet.
Yeah.
Or it could be that they're running game. Or it could be that, you know what, Britt's cool right here. I ain't really ready to settle down just yet. I'm gonna go over here and I'll double back, you know, a couple years.
Can't speak for this on everybody else. I'm gonna toot my own horn. And Britt, she don't be in the streets like that. She don't do. She's not like that. Yeah, I'm not. But I am also the person, when I reach to a certain point, I might wait, be patient. Then you'll finally think like, oh, she ain't going nowhere, and then it's gonna be switch. Guess what? I'm done waiting.
Right. No, I mean, and that's fair. I mean, like, I think at this point, nobody should ask anybody to wait on anybody. You know, because if I have certain feelings and you can't match my feelings, then like I can either keep walking and wait for you to catch up, or I can just keep going. Like, and you know, you can't really be serious and ask somebody to, you know, kind of put themselves on hold, you know, emotionally.
And in all fairness, that's not what happened. They told me from the gate, but they also kept talking and kept, you know, and so then they could have been playing, but it could have been there's still something there. And they weren't ready. They like in their head, I need to do this, this, and this. But my heart is, I wanna talk to her, you know, whatever. I'm giving up. It's too much. It's too much effort.
Can falling in love, in your opinion, for men, when he falls in love, can it be over consuming? Can he just be like overwhelmed with love and not be able to function?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I probably many reasons. I would say also if you've been unhappy for a while and then you finally, and not just unhappy in relationships, if you've been unhappy in general and all of a sudden you get that high because you found somebody, you vibe, you connect, you love, all that other stuff, and then it's just you consume yourself. We've all done it. Start dating somebody and you stop hanging with your boys, hanging with your girls. It's all about that person. You forget to have your life outside, and then you're all this, and then one day you go, shit. Or you get in a fight or whatever, and then that reality kicks in, and you're like, what am I doing? My life is all about them, you know. But I feel that it's easier when you've been unhappy with living situation, family, or you've been alone for so long and you finally got somebody and then you're in your own bubble with that person. And we've all done it. Sure.
Yeah, I'm damn near everybody.
Yeah.
if you've lived, you've done it.
Yeah.
Oh man, I think you've touched on some great points. I think one of the things that I want people to get, particularly the guys that listen to this, is that there's, everybody's different and we're all going to approach it differently. But I hope that, people have gotten something from this episode because, like, I think we dropped some gems in here. Before we get out of here, Britt, if we could lay out the psychology couch, as you sit on your couch, if we could lay out the couch and you could be Dr. Britt giving the quote unquote advice to, men out here who are listening to the 12 Kyle podcast, what would you tell them about pro or con or whatever final thought you want to leave them with when it comes to falling in love?
It's okay to tell the person. You don't have to be macho and have this front because, and I won't speak for every woman because everybody's different. But from me personally and friends I have and family members I have and heard about all these relationship things, we want to hear it. We want to hear it. We want to see that. Like, that's the person you're supposed to have that moment with. Express it. Because we're sitting here wondering, like, well, do they? Like, I know they say they love me and blah, blah, because you want to go off a little further. Everybody's got a different love language. Y'all give different and receive different. Just because I like quality time, that's not that person's, but you got to learn to give that person quality time, and then they'll give you what you want. Because you might like, I don't know, acts of service. So I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do that for you because that's what you want. But you got to give me what I want. It's different. You got to learn your person and be proactive after learning your person. There's my gin.
Okay. That's dope. That's hard to follow up. I think the thing I would leave the fellas with, and the ladies listening to as well, be open. Be open. Trust yourself. Trust what you see and trust what you feel. I think sometimes, and I think I don't know if we talked about this, but I think sometimes people get in, they get in their own head, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's what you mentioned a little earlier, Britt. Like, I think it's only natural sometimes for some of us to get in our own heads because, like, we see so much and we do so much, and like I was telling you, like, I'm big on energy, so like if I got bad energy coming from you, like, I'm like, well, wait a minute, I got good energy today. My energy is good, and your energy's, now I'm off kilter a little bit. But I think, like I said, see part of it is too is knowing what it is that you want first and foremost. I guess that goes without saying, but being open and being honest, and open yourself up and make sure that that's something that you want, and be open to it, because if you are open to it, then you can experience the love. But if you're not open to love, then you'll never get to you'll get to the like and the deep like.
Yeah.
You might get to love, but you'll never fall in love.
Mm-mm.
And one more question.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard men say this. Falling in love with two women at the same time. Is it possible for a man, in your opinion? As she covers her face.
Because that's a tough, like, falling in love. I don't think so. There's those levels, like deep, like love, in love.
Right.
I think you could love another woman and be in love. It's, I mean, hell, I've got homeboys that I love, like, got a bond with them. We're cool.
But it's not romantic.
It's not romantic. But I don't think, I don't want to say you can be in love with two people.
Okay, so have you ever been to the love stage with two people at the same time, Britt?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. The little delay had me hopeful.
No, because I was thinking about it, like, because I told you I'm a long. There's never been overlaps. There's
okay.
So I
see, you ain't for the streets, Britt.
I'm not. I told you. That's why, you can't circle back around to me. When I'm done, I'm done. Like,
right. It's a wrap.
And I think that's one of my flaws. My friend just said it to me the other day. When you love hard, and you love one person. I'm not like how they tell you, oh, you date 3 people at a time and see what. That's not for me.
That's a lot of energy.
Yeah. But even they try to play it off like, oh, it's the interview stage for dating, and I get that, but that's not for me. No,
it works for some people. If I were single, I don't think it would work for me.
It's too much.
Yes, it's way too much, man. It's too much. That's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, like, I couldn't imagine.
It's a lot of my time. Like,
exactly.
Spread
Yeah, Monday you going out with somebody, Wednesday you going out with somebody, Friday. Nah, I couldn't do it. Okay. Well, I mean, you got
2 men or 2 men. Do you think a man could be in love with 2 women?
Yeah, a man can be in love with 2 men. I'm with you. I don't think it's possible. I think if a man, and I don't want to say all men, just the men that I know,
legit.
I don't think that it's possible. I think, like, if you in love with 2 women, you're probably lying to yourself and to them, because you're in love with one of them, or you know what, you might not be in love with either one.
Right.
Maybe you just love them and you're confused, and you're telling them that, to further it along. But no, that's a lot. I mean, like, just loving somebody takes a lot of energy and a lot of yourself. And when you start talking about what we talked about a little earlier, the commitment part, if you're committing yourself to, and I joke about you not being for the streets, but like, even dating like that, and again, no knock to anybody who's a serial dater, but even that level of commitment, like, that's that's a deeper level of commitment to say, okay, well, hey, I'm going to give you this part of me for this day. And, the next day is going to be somebody I just couldn't do it. But in fairness, I've never been in that position where I had to do it since I was like little. I mean, younger, young adult. But and my heart wasn't in it like that. So, but no, I think you make a great point. I think people need to be honest about, how they feel. If you think
hurt. You're never going to not hurt somebody's feelings.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, in my situation. Yeah, my feelings were hurt and it was hard to like go from damn, like we got this whole vibe going and then boom, like we're pump the brakes. Like it hurt, but I respect it because he was honest about himself and everything else. And I, like I said, you can tell me if it's somebody else, like I can take a hit. Like I just like, cause I'm trying to figure out, do I be patient with you or, and yeah, be honest. It'll hurt, but
now once he hears this episode, he's gonna want to come back.
I mean, he ain't gonna hear this.
Oh man! Before we get out of here, Britt, if you'd like, you could tell folks where, since you don't have a podcast yet, you can tell folks where they can find you if they want to hit you up on social.
So speaking of socials, real quick, you can find me on Twitter, Britty18, Britty again 18. I've taken a break from social medias. The rest of them. I got TikTok. I'm learning how to cuss people out in sign language. I love it. I know how to say "not today, bitch."
Oh shit, for real? They can say that in sign language?
Yeah, not today, bitch.
I thought it was just be middle finger.
But I've taken a break as part of my own growth in peace because I realized how much Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram was like people were posting stuff. It was either getting me in my feelings or I was seeing stuff that was making me compare my life to. I've been off of those 3 socials for a month and a half.
Okay.
And I have more anxiety about hopping back on than I do not being on it.
Say word. Wow, that's what's up.
Yeah. And I'm loving it. Like the first day, I was like, okay. I kept scrolling on my phone like habit. Like,
You'd be surprised how much time we waste on that stuff though.
Yeah. Distraction. Like I'm hitting the gym. I'm not sitting there like, oh, let me look and see or who's doing this or nope. I gotta post it. No, it's so peaceful. I love it. I'm in a better mood. My homegirl told me a week after not being on it, she was like, your mood is so much better. Yep.
Well, that's what's up. So you guys know you can hit her up on Twitter if you'd like. I mean, unfortunately, I can't leave social media because of this podcast. But
for podcast stuff, though.
Yeah.
G has me on his, and then I interact with other people, you and everybody else who's got podcasts. Twitter's literally my podcast and crap talking about life. But that's it.
Well, that's good. I mean, because you found a good space, and I think that's important. I mean, I have an upcoming podcast about social media that it probably going to tick some people off, but there's some stuff that needs to be said. But it's you hit the nail on the head. I mean, like sometimes you got to step away from that stuff, particularly if you feel like it's adversely affecting you. So yeah, good for you, man. You guys been following me and listening to this podcast long enough. You know where you can find me. 12 Kyle across the board, the podcast, 12 Kyle podcast. Be sure to download and subscribe to this podcast. The podcast drops every Thursday at midnight. From time to time, we drop bonus episodes on Sundays at midnight. If you feel so inclined, hit me up on Cash App, $TWELVEKYLE. That's going to do it for us. And this is not the last time, Britt. Thanks for coming through. I really appreciate it. It's been dope.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, we will do it again for sure.
Yeah.
Again, that's going to do it for us. So for my girl, Britt, I am your boy, 12 Kyle. We'll catch you guys next time.
All right.
5G.